They thought it was just a game, a fun TikTok challenge, nothing serious, just an app leading them to a random location. But what they found that day would haunt them forever, that a suitcase sitting on the shore. They laughed, joked about what might be inside, but when they unzipped it, the smell hit first. Rotting flesh. Then they saw it, a body, dismembered, stuffed inside garbage bags. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a game. This was a real-life nightmare. And what's even more disturbing? The truth behind this case and the man responsible. This is the horrifying true story of the Suitcase Murders. The TikTok discovery June 19, 2020. A group of teenagers in Seattle, Washington, were exploring the coastline near Duwamish Head. They were using an app called Randonautica, which generates random coordinates for an adventure. They thought it would lead them to something mysterious. They had no idea what they were about to uncover. The app gave them a location near the waterfront, so they followed it. As they walked along the rocky shoreline, they spotted something strange. A suitcase, just sitting there on the rocks, as if someone had left it behind. At first, they thought it might be full of old clothes, maybe a lost traveler's belongings. Someone joked that there could be money inside. Another suggested they film themselves opening it for TikTok. But as soon as they touched it, something fell off. The suitcase was heavy, much heavier than it should have been. It had a damp, musty smell even before they opened it. But curiosity got the best of them. They unzipped it. The smell. That's what they noticed first. It wasn't just bad. It was unnatural. The kind of stench that burns the inside of your nose, that clings to your clothes, that makes your stomach turn. Then they saw it. Inside the suitcase were black garbage bags, crumpled and bulging. They hesitated. One of them reached out and nudged the plastic. It felt wrong, squishy, heavy. That's when someone said, "What if there's a body in there?" And that's when reality hit them. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't just some abandoned suitcase. They had just stumbled upon a crime scene. Panicked, they backed away and immediately called 911. Police arrived minutes later. The area was quickly roped off with crime scene tape. Detectives took over the scene. The once playful TikTokers stood frozen, their hands still shaking as they replayed what they had just seen. And the horror was only beginning. Who were the victims? The remains were later identified as Jessica Lewis, 35, and Austin Wenner, 27. Jessica was a mother of 4. She was described as kind, loving, and full of life. She had a bright future ahead of her. Austin was her longtime boyfriend, a man who had made mistakes in the past but was trying to turn his life around. But someone had taken that future away from them. They hadn't just been killed. They had been executed. Both had been shot multiple times before their bodies were cut apart and stuffed into the suitcase. Whoever did this didn't just want them dead. They wanted them gone, erased. But why? And who would do something so brutal? A house of horrors. The answer led detectives to one man, Michael Dudley. Jessica and Austin had been renting a room from Dudley in his house in Burien, Washington. It wasn't the best situation, but it was what they could afford at the time. Then witnesses started coming forward. Neighbors reported hearing gunshots coming from Dudley's home just days before the bodies were found. Not just one or two, multiple shots, followed by silence. One neighbor later told police that she had heard screaming before the gunshots. A woman's voice crying out. Then nothing. But the most disturbing discovery, when police searched Dudley's house, they found blood-soaked walls, bullet holes, a bed covered in stains. This wasn't just a murder. This was a massacre. And the most horrifying part, Dudley wasn't living alone. The suspicious roommates, when police questioned other people living in Dudley's house, something became clear. They knew something. One roommate claimed they had seen Jessica and Austin's bodies in the house before they were stuffed into the suitcases. Another witness said they heard Dudley talking about how he needed to get rid of them. Yet, no one did anything. They lived there while their landlord kept 2 corpses inside the house. They ate meals there. They slept there, with 2 dead bodies just a few feet away. The arrest and trial. Michael Dudley was arrested, but he denied everything at first. He said he had no idea what happened. Then he claimed that he was forced to do it. He kept changing his story, hoping to confuse investigators. But the evidence was overwhelming. His home was a crime scene. His neighbors heard the gunshots, and his own roommates had seen the bodies that he had no way out. In 2023, Michael Dudley was sentenced to nearly 50 years in prison for the murders of Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner. Justice, but not closure. For Jessica and Austin's families, nothing could ever bring them back. Nothing could erase the horror of what had happened. The horror lingers. This case is terrifying, not just for the brutality of the crime, but for how it was discovered. Teenagers filming a TikTok video that if they had never opened that suitcase, would anyone have ever found the bodies? Would Michael Dudley have gotten away with it? And the scariest part, this wasn't his first violent incident. Years earlier, Dudley had been accused of assaulting his ex-girlfriend. She later told police she wasn't surprised when she heard about the murders. She had seen his violent side before. Jessica and Austin weren't the first people to suffer at his hands, but they were the ones who paid the ultimate price. And the question remains, were they the only ones? Or is there more to Michael Dudley's past than we know? If you want more terrifying true crime stories like this, make sure to subscribe to FableScope. I post the darkest, most disturbing cases every week. Let me know in the comments, what's the creepiest true crime case you've ever heard? Thanks for watching, and be careful where you wander.